Hare Krishna, welcome to Thriving Bhakti. Bhadrasane here. Today we are looking at, are you solution orientated or are you problem focused? Why do I ask the question? Well, first there's a formula that I like to refer to that's very commonly known. And this formula is I've used in a lot of outreach talks to explain to non-practitioners of Bhakti and to Bhakti practitioners that there's a sequence of getting to the root of why we are the way we are, why we do what we do. And in order to change our behaviors, we need to know this formula really well. And it's there in Bhakti, but it's plainly, commonly put. And that's the idea behind Thriving Bhakti is easy, common sense ways of understanding the principles and habits and ideas in Bhakti in a simplified form using normal language and other teachings and perspectives out there. So let's go through this formula. This is really, really helpful because it all is based on destiny. So the destiny we want, the outcome we want in our lives is to become Krishna conscious. And in one sense, part of that is a destination. We want to go back to the spiritual platform, or we want to reach the perfection of enlightenment. So we have behaviors. So we come to Bhakti and we have to learn new behaviors and new habits. And a lot of devotees, myself included, we try to adjust our habits, take on the new habits, but we find we're defaulting. And we just keep trying to change behaviors and strategies around our behaviors to change, to become a authentic bhakti yogi or Krishna conscious practitioner. But the actual root of it is in our thinking, is in our mindset. So in order to change our actions, we have to change our mindset. So let's look at this formula. This will really help me clarify things and make it really simple. I like things simple. So if you like simple, you'll like this. So input, what we hear, we know Shravanam, we hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Hearing, what we hear, the input we've had shapes our thoughts, our thinking. Seems really obvious. Yes, it's true. So everything about us, our conditioning from birth, our teenage, our association, what we watched on TV, records we listened to, our elders, peers, whatever, even our name, my birth name is Duncan. So you are Duncan, you are this, you are that. So that input shaped my thinking, everything that was my senses were absorbing as a young person. And that thinking then shaped my words, what I talked about, those words, and also shaped my actions based on how I was thinking, and the decisions and thoughts and mindset that I had shaped my actions. And of course, actions become repeated. Those actions then become habits. So habits go back to thinking, you see, your input, right? So often we try to change our actions, but we have programs and thinking habits that we need to change first, then we change actions. So this isn't a lot of therapies now in the world, changing neurological pathways, changing the patterns of thinking or brain patterns, then allow us to move into new patterns of behavior, right? And that's in Bhakti too, because we are Shravanam, hearing what to do, Kirtanam, which also means explaining, hearing, and chanting, doing what we hear. So we hear that, oh, Hare Krishna is a good thing. You should chant Hare Krishna. Oh, I heard that. Now I'm going to chant Hare Krishna. You're doing, right? So from our actions repeated become our habits. So our habits, as we know, shape our character. So we have all these descriptions of different levels of human civilization, animal consciousness to different subhuman consciousness and different civilized levels of consciousness, means types of behavior. So we see in traditional Vedic culture, which we're aspiring for, is to try to behave, at least the beginning, on the human mode of goodness platform. That requires changing, first hearing about the mode of goodness, adopting the thinking of the mode of goodness, and then we can change our actions. We act in the mode of goodness long enough, it becomes a habit. That habit then becomes mode of goodness character. We live like that. Oh, that person's very mode of goodness. For most of us, like myself, maybe sometime in the day I'm mode of goodness, sometimes in the day I'm mode of ignorance, sometimes in the day I'm acting in the mode of ignorance. So But then our character, as we know, well, the modes you live of course, if you're practicing pure goodness, fully Krishna conscious, enlightened, then that determines your destiny. So input shapes our thinking shapes our actions become our habits create our character. So we are known by our habits. So that's like character, that shapes our character. That's why we try to learn real leadership. And these are other topics I go into as well. We learn about basic common sense ideas around developing real leadership. And leadership, we think, well, I'm not a leader. I don't want to lead anyone. Well, you're leading you. There's at least one person that you're leading in your life. It's you. You are leading you. So that character then shapes our destiny. So according to our qualities of our character, which reflects our thinking and our heart, that creates our destination. So this is really important. So you can understand now that if you are wanting to do great things or move forward spiritually and do great impact and outreach in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, you have to get your thinking right. You have to become that person who has that purity. You know, purity is the force. The purity comes from the quality of our character, which is the habits we have and the thinking. So we're actually in Bhakti, we're literally working on our subtle body. We get over the gross things in the first year or so. We try to get on top of following the regular principles. But then we've got to start dealing with our character. Why? Because the character is reflecting our thinking. And manmana mavavad bhakto majajim mam namaskaru, that always think of me, become my devotee. That means we have to think. So if we are someone who's struggling with our habits, we're struggling with following, we're struggling with getting our sadhana in, we're struggling with our relationships in our homes with our spouses or friends in the brahmacharya ashram, whether you're struggling in life, we have to come back to the way that we're thinking about the issue and the problems and change the thinking. That will come from new input. So Thriving Bhakti is new input. Reading Prabhupada's books is new input. So all I'm trying to do as a service is to really extricate the simplicity of what we're doing in Bhakti in a way that we can understand that we need to develop a success mindset. Of course, materially success mindset isn't aimed outside the modes, but still to be successful as ordinarily known, you have to develop the right mindset. You have to think right. You can't be successful academics, you can't be successful financially, successful in so many ways. It's not so much the success. The people who are successful in those arenas, pardon me, is that they had a certain way that they saw the world. So today we're looking at a mindset, and ask yourself, look at yourself, reflect, and be honest. How much are we generally focusing on problems? Oh, this is like this devotee's like, they were always, I know for myself, I've been very much a problem-focused person, always finding the issue, focusing on the problem. But entrepreneurs and spiritual entrepreneurs, bhakti yogis, I like to call them spiritual entrepreneurs because the thinking's the same, success-minded people who want to do great things, is that they are solution-orientated. And we can see this in example with Srila Prabhupada. If you read the Prabhupada Lilamrita, which everyone should read the Prabhupada Lilamrita, at least within the first years, and build that relationship with Srila Prabhupada and understand that what he has really done. And I've read it many times, and it's something we have to revisit. But in there, Prabhupada met so many problems. So many issues. The book came out, was it last year or this year, about the Battle of the Juhu temple and what all the devotees went to, of getting the land, maintaining the land, living on the property. The person who was doing the deal with the devotees, he was cheating and so many issues, and some terrible things happened. For Srila Prabhupada himself, in India, when he was first trying to spread Krishna consciousness on the order of his spiritual master, he came across so many problems. I can, you know, Juhu Beach, not Juhu, Jansi. He went there. He tried to spread. He only had one disciple, one follower who took it up. But he didn't wallow in the problem. He just moved on. What's the solution? Okay, I've tried this. I've tried that. This didn't work. This worked. So in our bhakti, we want to be like that on a day-to-day basis. We want to be solution orientated. We don't want to wallow in the problem. Here's a little practical tip I heard from an entrepreneur once, very successful. He said, when you have a problem or an issue or fallout or something's really got to you and something's gone wrong, set a time frame on your watch of how long you're going to get down about it. So let's say, for instance, actually, I'm going to be real live. Me and my wife, my wonderful wife, Katavali, we had a bit of an argument this morning. And we both got upset. And I had gone off and I was on the phone to her and we were trying to talk about it. And we couldn't resolve it very well. It was an issue around something. Feelings were involved, of course. And then I just texted to her and said, hey, how long do we want to spend on this issue? Right. And then move on. And accept the fact that it's not necessarily resolved right now, but it can resolve later, or it's something we can just like let go and realize what does we want to achieve today? Do we want to let this incident ruin all these hours or days or weeks moving forward? Like, are we going to stick to this thing, or so we just? So I texted her and she said, no, let's just give it an hour, and in 1 hour we have to move on. So we allowed ourselves to feel however we wanted to feel, down, dwell on it. Once that hour was up, that was it. So the issue only ruined 1 hour of our day. And then we've moved on, and my wife's now off doing all the things she needs to do, I need to do. We've kind of got it in perspective. I'm sure later on we can talk about it in a way and resolve the issue. So the solution at the time was little things can blow up. There's a problem. Let's put a time frame on it. How long are we going to actually focus on the problem? And now we said in the text message, what's the solution? And we both agreed it's not worth dwelling on. It was a misunderstanding. It was more about how we interpreted something, which is most of our problems, is how we interpret things and communication between each other. And we've moved on. Solution. So Prabhupada, when he was in Jhansi, he didn't wallow for a year in why did it fail? Why didn't it work? I'm doing service for Krishna. Why isn't everything going my way? We're actually developing character in our services. This is what it means, from one perspective, to not be attached to the results. It's not just saying I'm not attached to the results, Prabhu. It's how are we really handling what's happening result-wise? How is it shaping my character, my response? So Prabhupada moved on. He went on to the next project. He met so many obstacles in that way. On the printing he was doing, he was distributing books himself on the streets. He was even hit by a cow and knocked over, and he was struggling. And eventually he realized that wasn't working. I'm going to fulfill the order. And he made the plans to come to the West. And how many obstacles did he go through? His visa issues. There was another issue with not a visa, but something else, another form, a green card or something. And so many obstacles came in Prabhupada's way, but he was always, I'm just going to find a solution. I'm going to see how this is going to work. I'm not going to dwell in myself and why it's not working. So similarly, let's come down to earth. Oh, I'm trying my best to do my rounds and my reading, but it's not working. This is happening in my life. I got children, my job. I'm tired. I don't have enough time. See? We've got our mini Balakurusetra going on every day. We've got our excuses coming up every day, and they're real. And there's no doubt. But the energy we put into focusing into the problem is what is the problem. We acknowledge the problem, give yourself a time frame of how long you're going to dwell. 5-10 minutes, I'm going to feel this way because things aren't working out. I didn't get my rounds done, or I didn't sleep well. But then what's the solution? The brain needs direction. You could say the mind, the brain. If you don't give your brain direction, a clear direction, it becomes vague, it's very unlikely that you're going to do anything. In the mornings in the Thrive and Bhakti program, everyone does a morning intentional video to Krishna, but to the group as well. Hey, Hare Krishna, everyone. Good morning. Today, my top intentions and tasks today. And they set these things, the clear intentions for the day. And they're telling the brain, this is what I'm going to be doing. And if it's really clear and it's got a specific, then the brain will more likely, your actions will more likely follow. If it's like, well, maybe today I'll get my rounds done. Maybe, yeah, I'll try to get my rounds in later on. The more vague you are, the less likely it's going to happen, because you're not actually taking the machine and brain and giving it correct direction. So solution, you've got to ask yourself, what is the solution in this situation? Okay, this has happened. It knocked me down for those 10 minutes. What am I going to do now? What's going to be a solution? How can I learn from what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again, or I minimize it happening again? We have to think like that, especially if we're trying to be daily commit to our vows, to our reading, our sadhana, our hearing, our services, because we're not going, a lot of the challenges come with just how we feel, and our feel is our thinking. So right now I'm feeling like this, but what's the solution? What do I need to do right now? Take with your higher intelligence, your buddhi, as Krishna says, how to overcome lust. You need to use your deliberative intelligence. End of chapter 3. How do you conquer lust? That means just totally at the beck and call of your material desires and your urges. You've got to rise to higher intelligence through hearing and chanting, and higher intelligence. You have to say, what is the solution right now? So this mindset shift, changing the way we think to change the actions to become our habits become our character, and our character determine our destiny. We've got to regularly cultivate. Bhakti is a cultivation, as it's described in the Nectar of Instruction. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Rupa Goswami talks about cultivating bhakti, the bhakti lata. So the garden, your mind, your thinking is a garden. So you have to daily, and this is what we do in our program, is we daily get persons to, members to get into these habits of being intentional every day and directing themselves towards solutions, because it's inevitable that problems are going to come. That's also a type of thinking. Anyone who's been successful in, let's take sports people, they know when they set out on the goal to go to the Olympics that they're going to have a whole lot of problems, but they're just ready for them. It's like, oh yeah, problems coming. This is coming. That's happening. Someone died. Have been sick. Some always unexpected things, but they keep their eyes on the prize and they find a way around to stay focused. They have a solution mindset. So today's to get you to think about it. Look, track over the next week. Write down every time something happens. Are you notice, make an excuse, you feel you have a problem, you're focusing on why things are not happening. Why is this happening? Why is my husband nicer, or my spouse nicer? Why isn't it that I can't just get up in the morning? Why this? See how much you're indulging percentage wise and putting your energies and focusing on the problem, and how much you're actually focusing on a solution. The brain actually can feel the whole shift in the feeling, because as soon as you get the brain to say, okay, this is happening, I feel this way. So what is a solution, brain? Tell me, give me a solution right now. The brain, and the feelings change, and the whole mood of your being changes, because you're now moving towards a solution. And of course, why are we coming up for a solution? Because we want to please Krishna. The outcome is that you get better, you want a better chanting, better reading, and you're always going to want to get better. So this thinking goes on eternally. We're always thinking how to improve and grow and get better at what we do. So this is our training ground on earth to get the right mindset, the mind of always thinking of Krishna, meaning in all circumstances, how can I create solutions and adjust things so that Krishna's pleasure can go on and on and on, better in quality and quantity? So we're waiting for this. I know for myself, I've been waiting, like, when am I become Krishna conscious? Well, am I cultivating Krishna consciousness? Krishna consciousness is not automatic just by chanting. It's by cultivating, it's by applying the technology and habits and mindset. Then Krishna consciousness is automatic, as I explained in another one of the talks on Thriving Bhakti here. You can listen to that. How you want to make a cake, you get all the ingredients right, you follow the recipe, then automatically you'll have a cake. But if you miss an ingredient out, you don't get a cake or proper cake. So today we're focusing on all of us, myself, keeping up to date every week. Am I cultivating a solution-orientated mindset, or am I cultivating a problem-focused? And I can say today, my wife and I definitely get over our problems and issues quicker than we used to. And that has taken some time, some years of effort to, when we get into these ruts, we notice, we're just focusing on all these problems, you're misunderstanding me, and we're going on, and we say, then it's like, okay, we've dwelled on this problem long enough. What's the solution for the higher goal? This is a small issue that's become bigger than our whole lives, and the emotions can just escalate where you throw everything away based on some small misunderstanding of how we're feeling or how we had a difficult morning. So then we switch to solution orientation within 20 minutes, half an hour, and a whole day turned around, and we didn't ruin and lose a whole day. Sometimes, I'm sure some of you experience when you have problems and issues with friends or family, weeks and even years can go by while we hold on to these things. So I hope this has been useful. If we look at our acharyas, our predecessors, particularly our founder acharya Srila Prabhupada, who is our exemplary teacher and preeminent Shiksha Guru, he is instructing us. All these issues he came across he was displaying the character that we need to become, because his thinking when something was happening correlated to the right actions, to the right habits, and displayed his character. Of course, there's no destination for Srila Prabhupada in terms of like evolving to the perfection, but he's showing us how we need to respond to things as we come across problems and issues. So we shouldn't be, or noticing that we shouldn't be reacting to problems and issues because they are inevitable. Whether you're a sportsman, financier, wins and losses, whether you're a devotee, in the nature of this world is you're going to hit obstacles. But that's the opportunity to display the correct response. Boom, that's how you win. How do you respond and act, even though materially it could be a loss? We know that with the Pandavas, when they were in the gambling match and cheated out of their kingdom. It was the key was, why would Yudhishthira let everything slip away? He knew they were cheating, but he was like us, or we should be looking for how can he display character in this situation, because it's character, not bank account or size of kingdom, that determines the destiny. Remember, habits, divine character determines our destiny. So I hope that helps. Now I want to end, just like for those, particularly helping those who are struggling with their daily sadhana, their daily services or life. And also this is aimed at those who want to do big things. I help some devotees who have those things down, but they're kind of just drifting. They want to do big things, but they feel that they can't, they're not ready, or can they do big things? So I also help. This thinking is also to help them think big and to grow. Now they've got their core habits or their foundation right. But if you are struggling or you have some issues, and many devotees do, it's just to first acknowledge it, notice the problem, and then figure out solutions. What's the solution here? Get that mindset thinking right. So this particular podcast is focused on just that thinking. And then how do you get thinking? You need new input. And that input, your thinking is where your thinking is. So your thinking has got you to where you are. So your thinking is not going to get you out of the problem. Try to understand. Your thinking, if you have a problem that's continuing and reoccurring and being consistent, it's not going to go away because your thinking has got you there. So you need new input, new thinking. So where do you get new input from? Of course, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, but your mentor, someone experienced, an expert, someone who's further down the line. Yeah. Like an example is I do a little bit of entrepreneurial investment and diversification. But I didn't know anything about those things until I met someone who had a lot of success and become financially free and had more financial control and independence in life and in their 30s. Basically, didn't have to work a job anymore. And I learned from them with great gratitude and appreciation. I have wonderful relationships with them now. But they got me to think differently because my thinking had got me to where I was financially and economically. And then new input, new reading, new hearing from expertise has changed the direction of our lives in terms of finance and economy, our economics. So similarly, if you're stuck, then hearing Thriving Bhakti podcasts, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, your thinking will change, and therefore your actions will change. Your input has to come first. So you should have a mentor. You need to get guidance. You need to connect and aim the discussions and questions right. How can I solve this problem? And then, of course, you can see that in the heart of a bhakti yogi who are perfected, even Prahlad, he's thinking, how can I deliver everyone? What's the solution for them? Even right down to getting people out of material suffering to the stage of perfection is a solution mindset, a heart. It's a character. Now that I'm perfected, how can I solve and deliver Krishna consciousness in a way that will solve others' problems? So once you've really cultivated this bhakti solution mindset and you've tapped into that and you've got to a high level, then obviously part of that is you help others. It continues. So if you're thinking, well, I might get onto this solution mindset, it was very interesting, Badra saying, I can recommend a really good book, by the way, Mindset by Carol Dweck. Awesome book to start reading about growth and fixed mindset. And most of us grow up especially in the education systems and the world out there with a fixed mindset, a problem-orientated mindset. And if you want to know more about growth mindset, read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. Highly recommend. And you can Krishnaize it. You can totally understand these things as I'm relating to bhakti. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll leave this till later, well, we're not actually cultivating bhakti then. Bhakti is this type. This is the thinking, solution orientated. So myself here as also, I'm not a perfect solution orientated mindset yet. We have to practice. How can I solve my situation here? There is a way out. So we don't want to wallow in, oh, why? And look at the problem and make excuses. We have to please Krishna in all circumstances. And that begins by not getting over excuses why we're not chanting our rounds or being attentive or the habits and looking at areas of our bhakti that definitely need improving. And we need to have a solution mindset to it. We need to sit down and be honest and create solutions. And that requires help, mentorship, community, talking with your spouse and coming up with a solution. So I hope that was helpful. It's helping me as I try to improve the quality and quantity of my bhakti. So till the next time, if you have any comments below or have any questions, just please subscribe or click below and you can ask some questions and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can and answer those questions for you.